Hey guys, it's Danny. Today I'm going to show you how I put together this temporary setup for some of the most interesting fish that I've ever seen. I've been eyeing them for a lot of years. I've known about them for a lot of years, but I've never seen them for sale in my area until very recently. And I decided to do this really temporary setup that should house them for a month or a little more until I finish like their permanent setup, and I think it turned out pretty great. Now this setup, I feel like it's slightly on the tiny side for, let's say, long term with these fish, because they can actually grow a little bit larger than the ones that I have here, but it's certainly a very fitting setup for a betta. Look at him, he's so pretty. So in the end, the setup will remain for the betta and some shrimp, but for now I needed a place to keep these fish that are so rare in my area, because if I didn't buy them then, you know, there was a high chance that I would just miss out on them. The mofo is real. So yeah, in case I didn't put it in the title or in the thumbnail, I'm talking about the red lizard catfish. I'm starting to get quite the affinity towards catfish. The zebras, now these guys, they are quite special, you guys. They are very slender and pretty red. I mean, all of this video will be orangey red. Somehow it is my favorite color. So currently it is very high on tannins as well. It's not gonna stay like this, but the browny yellowy tint you see, it's tannins. I used a lot of botanicals actually in this setup, which helps me quite a bit with pH. But without further ado, let me show you how I put it together, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about the fish and like their ultimate forever home. Alrighty, so the tank is a Blau Aquascaping Shallow, 44 liters. I'll have to give it to Blau. This new aquascaping line looks absolutely amazing, and I love the shallows. I have 3 of them. P.S. This video is not sponsored by anybody. None of my videos are sponsored up until now. So for a substrate, I'm just using plain gravel. It's white. I might regret the decision, but it looked nice. I'm also using a Denerle nano heater, 100 watts. I feel like these heaters work great and they're very suited for the size of this tank. And a lot of botanicals. I'm using a lot of driftwood and coconut pieces, and I'm not entirely sure what the little caves are, but it's the closest to the ceramic caves that I have for my zebras. The fish don't use them, so useless. But anyway, also using a Blau filter. I love these filters, again, for the shallows. And as for plants, cryptocorynes galore. Whenever you're setting up a low intensity, or let's say a low fertilization, a low light, low CO2 tank, cryptocorynes will always be your friend. Yes, they do require some fertilization around the roots, which can easily be achieved with some root taps, but other than that, they will be your best friend if you don't have a lot of equipment and soils and fertilizer in your tank. I'm also using a few other easy to care for plants, such as bucephalandras and some bulbitis. I also added some Pogostemon Hellfairy. That one is not doing all that well in this scenario, even though I had it doing well in other low intensity setups, but I just tried it. Now at this point, I'm realizing that, hey, I would like a black background, so I'm adding one now. Should have done this before, but it's never too late. So here I am adding some black vinyl. The way to do so is to spray everything with soapy water, then to add the vinyl with the sticky part on the glass, cut it to size using a cutter, and then using a squeegee, remove all of the air bubbles and excessive soapy water bubbles. Just make sure it's evened out and trying not to create a big mess, and hey presto, the black background is installed. Initially, you'll have some soapy marks and maybe a few air bubbles, but in time they will disappear. Also here I'm installing the light. It's a very affordable Chihiro's A series that I got a long time ago, and ta-da! Now, aren't you annoyed by the hard watermarks on the tank? I am. Let me show you how I deal with them. I'm using the Denerle Cleanator, which I got last year in my Christmas advent calendar, and oh boy, it's the best thing I've ever used for these stains. One of the sides is actually made of steel wool. Now of course you can go and buy the steel wool separately, which I did, but they're all just not the same somehow, or maybe I don't have the right stuff in my area. They all are covered either by some sort of detergent, either they rust instantly as you look at them. I don't know. I really like the sponge, and I I'm gonna buy a new one. So if you ever had issues with hot water lines, this guy takes care of those lines in like 2 seconds. Not even joking. So here is a look at the cryptocorynes. To be honest, some of them don't even have tags, which is not uncommon here in my area. Most of them will have some tags, but some of these cryptocorynes I either used in other setups, either they didn't have tags, so I'm not 100% sure about the exact species they are, but pretty much most cryptocorynes should be just as easy to care for. So whatever you can find at the pet shop, trust me, it will be your best friend in this aquarium hobby. Also, cephalandras, anubias, all sorts of, let's call them epiphytic plants or plants that don't need to be planted. They will do great in low intensity setups as well. Now, for root taps, I'm using some Tetra tabs. They do not contain any nitrogen and phosphate. This is what they claim anyway, so they don't really promote excessive nutrients and algae. And yes, wherever I use them, the plants are doing pretty great, and I don't have excessive algae or anything of the sorts. So here I am filling up the tank with tap water. In this setup, I'm only using tap water, and I'm relying on the botanicals to help out a little with the pH, and help out they did. The pH went from 8.2 to 7.5, and it stayed that way. So I'm pretty happy with how it looks like. And here I am giving the camera a little seizure. Not sure what happened there, but let's move on. A few days after, and we can see the tannin built up. I'm starting to do the water changes because it's getting a little too much, but it's okay. Tannins are okay. The first inhabitants are some Clethon snails, and they're a little bit like my gauge if a tank is okay. Like, yes, I test the water. If I don't have ammonia and nitrite, I'm good to go, but I always test it with some inverts first, shrimps or snails, to see if everything is okay. And everything looked okay, so I introduced the first inhabitant to this tank, which was a beautiful betta fish, and it is the most beautiful betta fish I've ever seen. I always say this about all of my bettas, but this one really takes the cake. I think he's a koi type. I'm not entirely sure. His name is Nemo. And just look at him. When I purchased him, he had some damage on his tail, or maybe some ammonia burn, I'm not sure. But in the meantime, I've had him for a while in a separate tank. In the meantime, his tail has grown and he's looking so much better than when I purchased him. I really could not resist him, and he looks so great in this tank. Now, shortly after, a few days after, here I am introducing the main subjects of this video, the red lizard catfish, which they also have a scientific name. I will put it on the screen because I cannot remember it. And look at the little betta. He's so curious. Most bettas do this. It doesn't mean they're aggressive, but you always need to keep an eye on them whenever you introduce them to new friends, quote unquote. Some bettas are aggressive. I've had it happen. Most bettas that I've had are not. They're just curious, especially with shrimps. It's always a little stressful to see if your betta gets along with shrimps, but the only way to find out is to just try it. There's pretty much no way to know if your betta will attack and eat shrimps. All of them will eat shrimplets, but mature shrimps, very, very few bettas actually attack. And here is the tank, or rather the fish, the red lizard catfish. I think they look so amazing, so unique. I will have to ask you guys, if you see a male or a female in the footage I'm going to show you throughout the video, let me know, because I cannot tell. I should be able to tell, but I can't. Anyway, so that's about it. Let's go back to future Danny for some more thoughts. Right, so here we are. Aren't they pretty? I think they're so pretty, but obviously they can grow a little bit larger than this. Not too large, which makes them very appealing for many, many people in the hobby. But I feel like this shallow is a little too tiny. Like in the end, maybe shallows are better for stuff like zebra plecos and hypancistris, generally the tiny ones. But these guys, I don't think so. So their ultimate house will be the former discus tank. Yes, the discus are no longer. I'm not gonna go into the details, but it was stressful. Maybe I will give you the details some other time. It became very expensive and very stressful, so I decided to give them a better home, and who knows, maybe in the future I'll have discus again, but I think, like, I didn't really believe when people were saying, another day, another problem with the discus. That's how it was. The day and the problem. and there's just so much stress that I can handle. So I gave them away, and the 240-liter tank that I had, I transformed it into a planted tank, going back to my roots. Not quite a Dutch, but like a combination of Dutch and nature, whatever. It's something that I liked. I'm gonna post that video soon as well. So the 240-liter tank, it's more than enough for the 6 beautiful red lizard catfish that I have here. The betta will stay here. He will not go in the big tank. Also, the shrimp will still remain here. So for now, this setup will be the betta and shrimp setup. Who knows what's gonna happen to it in the future. But yeah, the red lizards are going into the big tank, which I think it's much more suited for them, and I've been trying some new products in this big tank and I am impressed. I've been trying some of the Nedle products, which I've never tried, never had access to them, and I am very impressed with how it's going. So a video on the big tank will come soon, but for now, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you've enjoyed it, and let me know if you've ever had red lizards. For me, up until now, I think they're super easy. I mean, I'm using tap water here. I'm not even using like a combination of reverse osmosis and tap water like I do with the zebras, and it's absolutely fine. I have a lot of botanicals which reduce the pH to 7.5, which is nice. But other than that, I'm just using tap water. I have no issue. I'm keeping the temperature at 25 degrees Celsius. Everybody seems to be great. I did not have any issues with them for the past month or month and a half. I'll have to look at the footage. So I think they're pretty hardy fish, and a person that I know who had them before even said they started to lay eggs like in their discus tank. So we'll see, who knows. I think mine are still pretty tiny. I don't know if they're juvenile. Never had them. So if you have more experience, tell me. I'm trying to see if I have males and females, and I cannot tell. Like the males should have like more little, are they called odontos? More little hairs around their little mouths and pectoral fins, I think. But I don't see any just yet. So either I have 6 females, either I don't know. Hoping not, but I cannot tell just now who's a female, who's a male. But if you have any idea from what I showed you, let me know. And yeah, for today, that is about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and sorry for the long break. I was actually on a trip, and I'm gonna post a video with something that is not fish related, but it is terrarium related. So this channel will also have some other animals, not only fish. But yeah, I did bring back something that I got on the trip, and you'll see it needs a little terrarium, which I'm gonna build soon. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, more regular uploads. With that said, enough blabbing. Oh, look at them. Look how pretty they are. They're very active. I like them. They're not shy at all. You know how the zebras are like, well, they're not so much now, but in the beginning they were hiding all of the time. Not these guys. These guys are not shy. I love them. And I think they will look so good in the big tank. Right, so I'm gonna stop blabbing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye.